You are tuned in to The Low Band Show, broadcasting from the storm drains under the big city, where a tunnel crew runs this booth on salvaged gear, pipes humming, steady water dripping, piping surface science and tech news on a low band signal through the drains. I'm your host, Max Hertz. Welcome in. Here's what we do. We take real science and tech news from the surface, summarize it, then go deeper to educate, entertain, and shed light on what's in store for our collective future. News from the net, clear signal, and a little tunnel. If you came for hype, you took a wrong turn at the storm drain. Welcome in, everyone. Max Hertz here, ready to bring you another look at what's happening on the surface. Wiz, good to have you in the booth with me today.
Good to be here, Max. Let's see what the surface world has cooked up for us.
We've got a busy board today, looking at the growing friction between our digital infrastructure and everyday life. First up, we'll talk about a county asking local schools to conserve electricity to keep their massive cluster of data centers running. Then, we'll look at the hype around putting data centers into orbit and a new coalition of tech companies and former politicians aiming to help workers navigate the AI transition. We'll also discuss Ford bringing back its veteran engineers after AI systems fell short, and why the Godot game engine is closing its doors to AI-generated code. Plenty to cover today. Let's get into it.
This one made me sit up. 404 Media reported on June 30th, 2026, that a Virginia county with dozens of data centers is asking schools to conserve electricity. It highlights the massive resource strain of the cloud. Wiz, what's your take?
It's the ultimate irony. We build these massive server farms to run the modern world, and then we have to ask school kids to turn off the lights so the servers can keep humming. Talk about lopsided priorities.
To get some context, Wiz, for listeners who aren't local, what exactly is Henrico County's position in the tech landscape?
Henrico County is a major hub just outside of Richmond. It currently hosts 37 data centers, with 17 more planned, largely because of cheap land and its proximity to Northern Virginia's massive internet pipelines.
Here is what the county manager, John Vitholkis, actually wrote in his email to employees. To mitigate the impact of higher electric costs, I am asking that we, collectively, make slight adjustments to conserve electricity across our individual workspaces.
And by adjustments, he means telling people to unplug chargers, adjust blinds, and turn off computers. It's like trying to put out a forest fire with a squirt gun when you've got massive server warehouses next door.
He also wrote, please limit use of, or refrain altogether from using, space heaters. A typical space heater alone can cost the county from $150 to $300 per year.
Banning space heaters to balance the budget while tech giants draw megawatts is wild. It shows the sheer disparity between local municipal budgets and the commercial energy demands of these operations.
We don't know yet if these public conservation measures will offset that $5 million spike, or if more counties will face this exact crunch. Let's shift gears to our next story. The argument over space-based data centers is really a fight between physics and financial hype. On July 1st, 2026, IEEE Spectrum published an analysis arguing that orbital data centers remain far from practical. Wiz, is there any substance here?
It is almost entirely financial engineering masquerading as aerospace engineering. Launching servers into orbit sounds futuristic, but it ignores the fundamental constraints of both manufacturing pipelines and raw thermodynamics.
IEEE Spectrum writes, to loft 1 million satellites into low Earth orbit on SpaceX's Starship, which is designed to carry up to 60 satellites per vehicle, would require 16,666 launches exclusively devoted to satellite deployments. Wiz, how realistic is that scale?
It is a fantasy. Even with a 10-fold increase in SpaceX's record launch rates and manufacturing capacity, we are talking about decades of dedicated effort just to deploy the hardware. And that assumes zero hardware degradation or orbital decay over those 25 years.
Before we talk about the hardware limitations, let's pause. Wiz, for listeners who might not know, what is the IEEE?
It is the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, the world's premier technical professional group. They set the standards we use every day, so their skepticism carries real weight.
They point out that cooling in space is incredibly difficult. Ginkina noted that StarCloud's orbital test chip failed to run fully because their radiator was too weak to let the chip run at full power. Wiz, why?
In space, there is no air for convection. You cannot just blow a fan across a heatsink. You have to radiate every single watt of heat away into the void, which requires massive, heavy cooling surfaces that are incredibly expensive to launch.
Yet the hype continues. Jenkina writes, the Elon Musk part of it is honestly genius because he's got xAI building the data centers, SpaceX sending them to space, and Tesla building solar panels. It's almost like he's paying himself. Wiz, is that the real play?
Absolutely. It is the perfect closed-loop marketing engine. He is keeping the capital rotating inside his own corporate ecosystem, while the rest of the industry chases the dream. It is brilliant financial theater.
Whether any of these orbital data centers will actually become economically viable remains an open question. Let's move on to our next story. This new coalition promises to prepare the workforce for the AI economy. Let's see what they actually have planned. The New York Times reported on June 29, 2026, that a massive group of employers, governors, and tech companies is launching a $500 million initiative. Wiz, can this group actually protect workers from disruption?
$500 million sounds like a lot of runway, but the scale of the challenge is massive. Rebranding job training won't stop tectonic economic shifts. They want to create a working lab for policy, but they're chasing a moving target.
The Wall Street Journal highlighted their broader focus. The coalition's leaders stated that their goal is, quote, not just to build retraining programs, but also to reconsider decades-old policies, such as unemployment insurance, and act as a working lab for testing the most effective ways to transition workers to new fields. Wiz, what do you think of rewriting policy?
Reconsidering decades-old policies is the right conversation, but doing it through a private-public coalition is tricky. Government policy moves slowly, while AI moves fast. If they want to test wage insurance and unemployment tweaks, they'll need state legislators to cooperate, not just corporate boards.
The Times reports that several tech players are backing this, writing, OpenAI and Anthropic are also involved, and academics, including MIT economist David Autor, sit on an advisory board. Wiz, for listeners who may not know, what is Anthropic?
Anthropic is an artificial intelligence safety and research company that develops large language models. They're a key competitor to OpenAI, but here they're sitting at the same table. It's a classic move, tech companies joining the steering committee so they can shape the rules of the transition they are causing.
There is a clear divide here on direct income support. While coalition leaders reject a universal basic income, researcher Jack Mulvey argues, quote, the truth is there's still a lot of uncertainty. What we think is resilient now might not be resilient later. We're not going to get everything right, so we're going to need those strong safety net programs. Wiz, is a safety net inevitable?
He's pointing to the real risk. Retraining only works if there are new jobs to transition into. If the rate of job destruction outpaces creation, wage insurance won't cut it. You can't cross-train everyone into entry-level lawyers like Microsoft suggests. At some point, cash support is the only safety net left.
Whether these new strategies will succeed remains an open question. We do not know yet. Let's move to our next segment. TechCrunch reported on June 28, 2026, that Ford is rehiring hundreds of veteran engineers after automated quality systems fell short. It's a huge reality check for industrial automation. Wiz, is the AI hype hitting the assembly line?
Absolutely. It turns out move fast and break things doesn't work when you're manufacturing 2-ton steel boxes moving at 60 miles an hour. You can't just hallucinate a brake caliper. The gap between Silicon Valley marketing and physical manufacturing is massive.
The report states, Ford executives said they've hired 350 veteran engineers after AI and automated systems failed to deliver the desired quality. They're relying on these specialists to hunt for failure points. Wiz, for listeners who aren't familiar, who is Kumar Galhotra?
He's Ford's chief operating officer, responsible for managing their entire global production and quality control. Having him admit that automation failed is a big deal. They thought automated quality gates could replace hands-on specialists, but software can't replicate 30 years of seeing metal fatigue in the real world.
Charles Poon, Ford's vehicle hardware VP, admitted, mistakenly, we thought that by just introducing artificial intelligence and ingesting the design requirements that we had, that would produce a high-quality product. They're also using these veterans to train younger staff and reprogram the AI. Wiz, what does that reprogramming part tell us?
It tells us the AI was basically garbage in, garbage out. Design requirements aren't enough. You need real-world heuristics. The AI couldn't predict how parts actually fail, so now humans have to translate decades of tacit shop floor knowledge into code.
We don't know yet if this hybrid approach of humans training the AI will actually prevent future production recalls. We'll be watching. Let's move on to our next story. Here's the breakdown of a quiet rebellion in open source software. PC Gamer reported on June 30th, 2026, that the Godot Foundation is banning AI-authored code and AI-generated communications due to maintainer burnout. It's a huge stand for human-centric development. Wiz, what's your immediate reaction?
It's a pragmatic survival move, Max. Maintainers are drowning in automated garbage. When reviewing code starts to feel like grading homework generated by a robot that doesn't understand its own math, people just walk away. It kills the volunteer spirit.
Exactly. They stated, if your feedback on PRs is just being absorbed by a machine and not going towards mentoring a potential future maintainer, it becomes much harder to justify spending your free time on PR review. Wiz, for listeners who may not know, what is Godot and what is a pull request?
Godot is a popular open source game engine used to build 2D and 3D games. A pull request is simply a contributor's proposal to add their own code changes into the main project. In this case, those proposals are being flooded by low-effort AI slop.
And they're taking a hard line on accountability, too. PC Gamer notes the Foundation is requiring contributions to come from humans who can fix their code if it fails, stating, AI cannot take responsibility, and we can't trust heavy users of AI to understand their code enough to fix it. Wiz, how do you see that playing out?
It hits the nail on the head. Coding assistants are great for generating boilerplate, but they can't debug their own hallucinations. If a contributor can't explain or fix their submission when it breaks, they are offloading their work onto volunteer maintainers. That's not contributing. That's dumping.
They're even banning AI-generated text in human conversations, calling it a basic principle of respect, though machine translations are still allowed. Let's read their concluding thought. We will continue taking a conservative approach in our policies towards them, but we will reevaluate as things evolve. Wiz, is this a permanent ban or just a tactical pause?
It's a tactical firewall. They're trying to protect their human pipeline before the community burns out completely. As the tools change, they might adjust the boundaries, but the core principle is set. If you submit code, you have to actually understand it.
Whether other major open source projects will follow Godot's lead, or if this policy proves enforceable, remains to be seen. It's still unclear how they'll detect every AI-generated submission. We do not know. Let's transition to our next segment. And that is our board for today. We started with the hard reality of local school districts cutting back on space heaters to offset power spikes from massive data center hubs, then looked up at the orbital hype of space-based servers. Beneath both of those runs a deeper question about what kind of human labor is actually resilient, whether we were talking about AI transition safety nets or Ford bringing back veteran engineers to reprogram the models that fell short. Even in open source, the Godot engine is drawing a sharp line to protect human collaboration, showing that the rush to automate everything is hitting some very human guardrails. We will be tracking how these policies shake out and whether these hybrid approaches actually prevent future recalls.
We have more build and science threads queued up for the next session, so keep your skepticism calibrated. We will pick up the signal when the next episode drops. It's certainly a lot to consider. If we missed an angle, or you have further questions on these topics, please drop us a comment. We read them down here in the tunnel. And if this signal helped you stay informed, like or subscribe keeps the pipes humming. More surface news and deeper dives are coming through the grate soon. Until then, stay curious, and we'll catch you next time on the Low Band Show.